pressing
Hello,
the
everybody.
button.
Whiskey and Bagels. We're up to 22. Been at this for a while. My gosh.
Your age.
I know. We get better with age.
Absolutely.
So I'm tearing down my studio here. I'm building another one. This is the last one in the studio, so we better enjoy it. Like, we better enjoy the pizza and the wine here and the champagne. I'm
Yes.
Conscious Medium Brandon Ross, and with me on the other side of the pond is
astrologer and life coach Penny Dix.
you hit a home run every chance you get, and your October videos are pretty fantastic. I gotta tell you.
Thank you.
I reveled in them, and I only fell asleep to the last one. I think I listened to like 6 of them, and I fell asleep to the last one. So, but it's not. I didn't fall asleep because of your voice. I fell asleep because that was the time that I had, and you kept me up actually an extra hour and a half. So
Wow.
there's that.
Wow. Well, I'm impressed.
Keeping men up late at night. But anyway, so what's going on with the world? We actually got a couple of things going on this week. We've got Pluto going direct in Capricorn. We have
Saturday, the 8th.
And then we have the full moon in Aries. That's kind of taken a hold.
Nice.
But then we also have, with that full moon, we've got the square of Pluto. We also have the opposition of Mars. Like, this is not an easy full moon at all. At all.
Mars is actually squaring Jupiter and Neptune, which is quite a tricky aspect for it.
Yes. Well, why don't we dive right into that? How is that? Do you want me to pull up the chart already? I can.
Let's talk.
Let's talk first, because when Jupiter, has this action with Mars and Neptune, what are we going to expect? Like, what's the behaviors?
Well, I don't think I want to say, because having highlighted it, but it can be about endings, but sort of significant endings in terms of people transforming from, or transiting from physical into spiritual.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you're dying.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to put it in the nicest possible way.
Well, and I think it's good to talk about this conceptually too, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're dying. It means that it's a spiritual transformation. It could mean you're leaving your body. It could mean that those things are coming in. And it's funny, I'm standing behind everything that I've said about, the energy of Trump and Putin and everything else. Trump is absolutely doing his rhetoric right now to push things. And I've said it, if he's still in his body at the end of the year, he's not in the country. This is one of those portals that open up. But on the other side of that, if you're looking to elevate your game, if you're looking to elevate your consciousness, this is a great window for you, a phenomenal window for you, to elevate and do it, do it with the proper steps, do it with reflection, with your old notes, looking at your journal, your meditations, your consciousness, what have you. Clearly, I'm going to go through a conscious awakening through catching a cold and then needing to sleep a little bit more.
It actually makes you sound very sexy.
Like in a Kathleen Turner sort of way?
Like in a kind of like, way.
How do you like your eggs? Anyways, that's terrible. Shame for shame. The last thing I need in this world is temptation. So, but yeah, I think that's a really cognizant, thing with this. And in the full moon itself, I have a series of videos coming out too, and I know you've addressed the full moon. I'm definitely hanging on to the Hunter's moon here in the US that has a whole background to it. It's the Halloween moon. It's the idea that it's, connective, that energy. But it's really sizing us up for some more stuff coming.
It's also quite pagan, because
it's
also known as the blood moon or the sanguine moon.
Yep.
Which is sort of like there is something very much about death and rebirth, and yet this particular full moon, being in Aries, which of course is the first sign of the zodiac, and this full moon is conjunct Chiron, our wounded healer. So there's the potential for, through endings
in Aries,
healing to come.
Yeah.
And you've got Venus conjunct the sun, obviously in position, Venus rules Libra, so that's a really super cool position for Venus to be.
Right.
And there's actually some, you know, there is this difficult energy of Mars squaring Jupiter and Neptune, but you've also got Mars trining Saturn.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because Mars is going to get a lot of headlines here coming up with us, a lot, because it's going to be going retrograde in Gemini. But talk about this aspect with Saturn. This is, you know, of course, you've got Saturn with the structure, Mars with the war for, you know, an action, so to speak. What do you think that this is going to look like for a lot of people?
I think it's about, you know, if one is feeling that one has lots of things on their agenda that you want to get moving, you've got these great thoughts and you want to put them into action. The trine to Saturn is really saying, slow down. They are great ideas, but it's about timing. And everything, as we know in life, is about timing. If we rush at things like, say, Mars squaring Jupiter and Neptune, then it might not be so good. Yeah. But if you actually take notice of what Saturn's saying, Saturn is saying, use the timing, slow down. And you've also got Mercury trining Pluto. Yeah. And Pluto, of course, has gone direct by the time of the full moon on Sunday. So Mercury is suggesting that there is opportunity for some really constructive and transforming discussions that can come, certainly, I think, in some of the hot spots of the world at the moment.
Yeah, and I think globally it's, you know, I think it's also lending itself to be a prime thing for, I mean, you know, not that I'm trying to make him a sympathetic character, but maybe this is allowing Putin to kind of get himself to a place where he can save face a little bit, because we know that's part of it. You know, a lot of the rhetoric.
Yes, it's not going to help anyone if he's backed into a corner, because then he won't care who he takes down with him.
And, you know, it's also, we talk about this timing thing and him annexing, you know, it's funny, he annexed a part of Ukraine that fell to the Ukrainian troops later that day.
They just put it back.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of like, come on, dude, like we can see it. I think the Russian people have been willfully ignorant, and now they're purposefully ignorant. And the more that they learn, these 70,000 people that have been fleeing are going to be sending messages back going, dude, this ain't the story at all.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because I saw one of the sort of commentaries on Sky News, which I like as a news source. Everyone might not like it, but I find it quite fair. Yeah. And it was that even the Russian commentators on state television were showing signs of kind of not really being on the side of the Kremlin.
Really? What did that sound like? Was it just kind of like specifically vague, like, we hope that things work out?
Yes, sort of. It was vague, but it was kind of showing that they were being, I guess what it was they were being a little bit more transparent in the news about what is really happening.
That'll get you killed.
Yeah.
That will get you killed. I mean, come on. Don't be a fool. Is it worth it? You know, I also think too that, you know, I think you review some things in, you know, bad behavior, whether you're invading a country or you're stealing documents or you're just, you know, in bad behavior. This energy over the last 6 months has really given you a review. And some people get a hold of it, and some people recognize it and make the changes necessary, and some people don't. You know, it's like anything. It really is like anything. You know, you look at way back when Nixon did what he did, he went down with the ship, because he's just like, you know, how dare you question me? And then they're like, yeah, but what you did was illegal. He's like, but it's not illegal if you don't find out. Delete. And, you know, that doesn't happen in the Akashic records. You don't get a delete button. The Akashic records do not get a delete button. And listen, you've got to kind of own it, and you've got to own that maybe it was part of your path. You know, if you know, Putin gets there to the Akashic records, he's like, did I do that? Did I do that? You know, yeah, you did that. You were bombing school buildings, for crying out loud. Like, come on. and there's karmic value, and it's not revenge and it's not hell, it's the
Mm,
destiny. I think instead of looking at, the afterlife as a, heaven and hell placement, heaven can be defined by elevation, that you go up a level, whatever that means.
mm,
And damnation or hell is reincarnation into something where you can maybe get it right the next time.
mm,
And not that you're damned to walk the earth. That's not the punishment, but the situation is your
mm,
astrology coming out of it might be a tough astrology.
mm,
Your circumstances and your socioeconomic conditions might lend itself to think that you're going to have a tough life. And I
mm.
think I think that's how we have to start looking at things from a spiritual standpoint too. It's I know I'm getting really deep here with this, but
Yeah, well, I think it's also, if you think about the fact that we kind of have an idea before we come into this particular physical lifetime
yeah,
of what our role is going to be in this lifetime. So
yeah,
Putin will have made a kind of soul contract to do
right,
what he's doing for the world, in the sense that, and that sounds kind of like crazy, but because the world is being pushed by everything that's happening to change. This is Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto is now moving into new degrees of Capricorn that we as a generation will not have experienced. And
mm,
as Pluto goes through the end degrees of Capricorn,
mm,
then it's like the whole sense of Capricorn and Pluto there is that the way we've been doing it up until recently is not working. And
yeah,
that's in economic structure. It's in the structure of governments. This is
mm,
about having to break down the old ways. And you might say that Putin has come in as this kind of um, person to really push the
yeah.
world making very significant changes, not relying so heavily on fossil fuels, for example.
Yeah, well,
Like oil and
that's a
gas.
whole other argument right now. Like, I'm
Exactly.
all for taking care of the planet. I'm also all for having a plan. You don't destroy things that work perfectly well. You phase them out. Europe's in a crunch right now because they got indignant because they're like, oh yeah, let me just rip apart our nuclear power plants. And listen, I am not pro nuclear at all, but at the same time, you still have them. Let's not be stupid, right? Like there's a judicious way to doing this. And I'm going to tell you what it is. I use this analogy a lot, and I need to just make a video to explain relationships in the age of Aquarius, because it's this right here. It's this Piscean reliant. Here's fossil fuel. Here's the humans, and we just did this, which is not healthy, right? If we had done this, then we could come back and go like this. I still think nuclear power plants are important on levels for its efficiency and what have you. It's the proliferation of nuclear weapons that are like the fact that we suddenly have a Cold War era fear about use of it. That's what we need to address. It's not the power plant's fault. The power plant's fault is actually proper use. And if we as a world decide we want to get rid of the nuclear side of things because of the accidents and because of the waste that's contained with it, or the dangers associated with it, great. But anybody that works with anything nuclear or atomic know that the word half-life is the first thing you learn. And when it hits a half-life, it means that it's dropped its efficiency and you no longer get that return on the energy. um it's the second leading reason why there's issues with the economy right now. The first one being that they were all in on a global vision that just wasn't real, because we have things like instability in Iran, and
Mm,
China, who should be the one kind of saying this is a good plan for everybody. We
mm,
can't do that because we can't deal with those commie bastards, and we can't work with different economies. um, it's just very myopic, and we do this energetically too. I think I'm going to call this whiskey and bagels the portal. The Jupiter, Mars, Neptune.
Well,
It's Jupiter, Mars, Neptune, right? If I recall, because I don't have it up in front of me.
and I think it's a good idea if we do bring the chart up now, because I want
Yeah.
to talk about the kite formation.
Yeah, and different, styles of formation. Oh my gosh, I didn't do this beforehand. My fault, my bad.
There we go.
There we
So
are.
this, if you look at Mars sextiling the moon, sextiling Saturn, you've got the top formation of a kite. And then you've got a grand air trine where you've got Mars trining the Sun, Venus trining Saturn, and Mars. Yes, so it's this is so that is a grand air trine. And then you've got the top of the formation is a kite. So you've got a kite formation, which is actually, I think, super positive for this particular full moon, for all of us, because this full moon has huge potential for healing. It is the start of the zodiac. We have got Chiron in Aries, conjunct the full moon. So
yeah,
it's like, there's just such opportunity with this. If we can let go of the inappropriate ways of working, of speaking, of behaving, anything that really doesn't serve us now going into the future, we should be letting go of. And with the kite formation, it's like we all need to be able to soar up into the heavens, to be able to have that kind of what I call eagle sight of what is going on planet Earth. Because sometimes we will get so bogged down with our own problems, where we get so caught in it and overthinking and ruminating, that we forget that if we were just up kind of like, several 100,000 feet and look down, our little house would be just a little speck, and the village or the town where we live will be tiny. And it's like, it puts things in perspective, like when you go in a plane and, if you are worried about something, when you look out the window and you think, but where's that problem? I can't even see it. So there is, I think, a very positive side to this full moon. And I think there is a positive side to the Mars squaring Jupiter and Neptune, which is, in a sense, about if we keep that anger, if you look at that Mars in the 12th house, if we keep that anger within, it just implodes and destroys us internally. Whereas if we actually start expressing it in a constructive way and give it, if you like, to spirit, Neptune, Jupiter, they're almost conjunct again. They don't actually get conjunct, but they're almost. And Jupiter's going to be in Pisces again by the end of the month. And it's in this part of the chart that is really about ascending up to the heights. So for me, there is something very positive in this particular full moon. I don't know what you think, Brandon.
Well, it's funny because I'm looking at, the current transits here. And I almost want to bring up another one here. Pardon me. But, the reason why we talk about this as a portal, and I think I want to isolate this, and I might edit this a little bit. You've got Mars, Saturn, and then Venus. The sun is a good oscillator here. They're near conjunct. They're considered a conjunct where Mars and the sun are less than 10 degrees. So we can call that conjunct. But the reason why this is a portal, and the reason why we talk about these trines on a consistent basis, is because it opens up the window. Windows in our house are square. In astrology, they are, squares are not the best scenario, but trines and these triangles are actually portals that open up. And when you focus in on the Mars being in the 12th house, Saturn being in the 8th, and then Venus, let's just focus in on Venus for a second, being in the 4th, these are your psychic houses. These are the psychic houses. So when I say that you're elevating here, that is a very key thing. When Penny is mentioning that, we have this square to the Jupiter Neptune conjunct to Mars, that's a getaway plan, guys. That's a getaway plan. That's where you're saying go big or go home, live the dream or kill the dream. Doesn't matter what it is. And if our human existence is the dream, then there it is. But you also have Chiron sitting here in the 10th house, which is, some public healing stuff. And it's opposite of the sun. It moves away from that. It's actually in, being conjunct with the moon here. And this Aries full moon release, which is natural here, but it's about personal presence. Aries is the first house. Aries is always it is the rising sign of astrology. And it's about self-evident in our nature and our nurture and our healing and our perseverance. So you have this long-term healing and survival really matching up here. And it's brutal. It is brutal.
Yes.
That there is a component that, are you going to live or are you going to go? Should I stay or should I go now? And I just totally went the Clash on that.
I've just sent you a chart of absolutely now, because I thought it might be quite interesting, because what we've got is a fixed cross.
Did you send it to me? Go ahead and send it to me. But, I can talk a little bit more about this here.
I've just sent it to you. You should have it.
Got it. Yep. So I also think that when you look at this chart too, we always pay attention with the nodes, right? The North Node being the bull's head. It's sitting here in the 11th house, still in conjunct with Uranus. They're playing this long-term, thing here. And, the South Node being in the 5th house, again in Scorpio. This is a really good creative time, but I don't know that you should be creating with other people all the time. And if you're going to create with other people, you both got to be on the same page, which isn't a bad thing, right?
Yes.
So there's some cool energy in this chart too. We don't want to necessarily think that it's all doom and gloom. This is a great creative, thing as well. As a matter of fact, with, having the book out, sorry if I'm plugging that away, putting the finishing touches on a book and sending it to the printer. And of course, I purposely was like, did I really try and launch that, during a Mercury retrograde? And, and I'm laughing about it. I'm kind of, I don't know how I want to say this, but, without being ostentatious about it, I put a lot of work into this, and the editing took forever, and the, just how everything kind of came to be was really super important to me. Well, I told you that story to tell you this one. The timing of this couldn't be better for me. I mean, it really couldn't be better. And I'm not, of course, I can't find what I just saved. There we go. But in releasing it, and for me, I really realized like, hey, this was this is really cathartic for me. This was really important for me to, go through that. And it ends up being a really important time, for me personally. Well, here's the chart of now. And this is, we're filming this on October 6th. We timestamp it for our personal pleasure. But yeah, you've got some, that 10th house is really, wow.
Interesting energy.
Yeah.
You've got nodes literally on the MC and the IC. And you've got that Uranus down there in the 4th house. It's quite strident. And I mean, what's interesting is the moon has just moved into Pisces.
Yeah.
And a bit earlier today, it was actually void in the last degrees of Aquarius. But it is now making aspects. It should be anyway. It's making an aspect to, let me see, what is it making an aspect to? The moon is, well, it's conjunct Juno. It's not really making any particular aspect at the moment, is it?
No, and I think it's also, when we see that the moon is going to be in the 10th house by the
Mm,
time it kind of makes its way around here,
yeah.
and that's where Aries is going to be, obviously. You've got a lot of people that are just, they're publicly, this is a very public career. It's career altering, really.
Yes. Yes.
It's in a positive way. And it's funny, I've been doing kind of this cross section. um I've really put a lot of time and effort in doing more tarot readings, as well as combining it with astrology and whatnot. And I'm a student of the game too, and I've been watching a lot of other readers. And listen, everybody's got their strength, but the
Mm,
tone that I see, I just naturally go to Pisces, and the tone with Pisces, and you may find this as you watch these over and over again, across the board, everybody's tapping into the same energy. That's the part that's really fascinating to me.
which is really exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where when people are gonna make that a little bit bigger there. Oop, did I lose you?
No, I'm
um
still,
you know
unless you
I
kick me
don't
out.
just mean to do that. But there's a dynamic here where people tend to follow along with the energy of stuff, right? And
Yes.
I think what's also kind of happening is there is a vibration across all these readers. That's the thing that's fascinating for me, and it kind of goes back to astrology.
Yeah.
Pisces are having difficult times with their person, their runner, or their situation, or but it talks about a career, like the only way you see out of it is by going up.
Mm,
And that, boy, that's that, if to combine that and talk about that particular trine portal is like bam, right? And I
mm,
think that's one of the reasons why we talk about astrology so much. It's like the energy is prime. Did you do the work? Are you ready for it? And
mm.
listen, you'll have other opportunities, but you're going to have to wait for the next train.
And look
you
at
know
that Mars square Mercury today.
yeah, I'm looking at that Mars, like these are tough conversations.
Mm, mm.
These are people kind of ripping the
You're
band-aid off
about
and saying,
closure and endings, and it's closure, it's endings. It's saying it's okay, but that Mars square Mercury and Mercury in the eighth house just to me feels like some sort of closure that has to happen, and it's not liked and it's not welcomed. And you've got let me see, where's Pluto? There's Pluto. So Pluto is still, of course, squaring Eris. And that's interesting because the fight or the rioting or protests in Iran have got even worse.
yeah,
They are really, really still, there's a huge movement. And there was the member of the European Parliament live on television last night, I think it was, or the night before, who cut her hair off in support of the women of Iran.
it's desperation.
Yes.
It's that desperation that we're talking about. And I think a lot of the times, we've been criticized for, world event stuff and whatever. But the reason being is, even though their actions are affecting the world,
Mm,
the Iranian, leadership, Putin, Zelensky, Trump, who's not even in power, the fact that he gets so much time is just, I would like to see one day in November not have any Trump coverage at all. Like, not even say the word Trump. We would change the energy like that
yeah.
because we're feeding a megalomaniac.
Sadly, yes.
But as much as we talk about this, like globally, and the fight, and the insurrection mode, or the rebellion mode, or the totalitarian mode, whatever it is, the religious zealot mode, um, it still comes down to personal
Yeah, that.
astrology. It still comes down to personal astrology.
I've got
What
some terrible noise outside. Somebody's doing something, but I hopefully you can't hear it.
I can hear something faintly. Is everybody okay?
Oh, as long as it's faint. I don't know what they're doing, but
If I didn't know
playing
any better, I would say it's a guy walking his dog that got excited at seagulls.
No, it's not. It's like somebody with a motorbike or something, and or one of these chainsaws, you know.
So the motorbike is square to Penny.
Yes. I'm saying, will you shut up and go away, you lot?
Yeah, it's like it'll pass, it'll pass.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the timing of this. We're talking about this square,
Yes.
this trine action, and I'm going to go back to the other one here.
Yeah.
We talk about the square,
Mm.
or rather the trine here, the 1284 trine, right? This
Yeah.
psychic trine going on here.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
have Mars, you have Saturn, and then you have Venus. I'm going to focus in on Venus for the sake of the portal conversation.
Yeah.
How long do these last? Like, how long are these windows open? How much does it? Because you've got two relatively quick moving planets with Venus and Mars. They are on an inner planet. But I can't imagine that this is going to be, it's like, that's why we are able to call it a portal or a window, because it's only open for a
Yes.
short amount of time. My
Yes.
guess is what, 6 days, 8 days?
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah. So
And
these are, so as much as this might be tough energy, if you're being called to elevate, then it makes
yeah.
sense, right?
Mm.
If your predominant houses are 12, 8, or 4, you're going to feel this too. If you're
Yes.
also in a position where, when you take these kind of analysis, and I hope you guys understand, like, we aren't trying to just be political. We're using case studies where it's very public with the news that's coming out, and that there's intuition connected to what we might feel or the world might feel, and give us validation with this.
Mm.
I'm sure, and if I recall correctly, Putin was really busy in his 12th house,
Mm.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
his 12th house is really busy. Mars is sitting in the 12th house right now. Are they overlapping? Not necessarily, but it does affect it in a way where it's like that house of the undoing is also the hopes and dreams. So for his side of it, he's acting in a way where his hopes and dreams are to take over the world and play Risk with everybody. The
Yeah.
reality is it's his undoing. Dreaming McDreamer, you're sitting there in the Pisces house, right? And it's not going to go well. The fact that it's in Gemini right now, Mars is in Gemini.
Mm.
I mean, and you've got Mars and Gemini. You're in an air trine. You heard Penny say that earlier. It's an air trine where you've got Gemini, Aquarius, and then Libra.
Yeah.
Well, what have we been talking about for the last month solid in these? We talk about what our personal happiness is, bringing us to our personal balance, bringing within, shedding the things that don't serve us. Venus sitting there in Libra is exactly that. Don't put on the mask before you help somebody else. Take care of your own stuff before it goes. And it looks kind of selfish, but there's a greater good involved with this. How do we know that? Saturn is in Aquarius. This is about a new structure coming in. This is about things melting away. Then you have Mars in this Gemini action, which is it's squirrely. It's one of the squirreliest placements of a planet in a position. I mean, there's others, don't get me wrong, but that one in and of itself, now you get them in perfect symmetry in terms of the trine, right? Of that 30 degrees.
Yeah, and don't forget that we're, of course, right in the energy of the Saturn-Uranus square currently.
And
So
then you have this, then you have that squared energy.
Yes, if people are finding that the things that are coming up for them are sort of, perhaps feelings that were around in the spring, or feelings that were around towards the end of last year, or doubts and fears, and all those kind of things can come up at the moment, and feelings of inadequacy, or feelings that everything is just terrible and not going to work out.
And I'm going to go a step further with this.
Yeah.
This is also about the 11th house being those friendship relationships, right? That outgoing connection with people, right?
Yes.
Well, the fact that is square, that conjunct of Uranus and North Node are in conjunct, are square to Saturn, is basically saying it's an inside job, everybody. You can't externalize this. This doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Go get your shit together, and then we'll try and come back together. That's what that's saying astrologically.
Yes.
Plus, that portal of elevation is happening right now. And by
Yes.
the way, there's your tower card, everybody. There's your tower moment. That's the moment where something unforeseen comes in and changes your situation, right? Maybe knowledge comes to light. Okay, we're not politicians here. Maybe it's a health concern.
I think
Maybe
it's also, sorry.
it's somebody revealing their true feelings for you or not having feelings for you. You know, maybe it's all of those things where it's like, you can't rely on me anymore because I haven't relied on you, and I can't rely on you. I have to do this myself. And, you know, as much as Uranus in the 11th house is kind of the rebellion, it's also the self-preservation. It's the practicality, and it's sitting in an earth sign with Taurus being, I got to go back to what's best for me. This, you know, I love it when a plan comes together, is the old A-team saying, but here we are, and this is how we explain it. You have this portal open, and then you have the inflow of Uranus going, oh, no. You can't rely on those people. Yeah, it's not fair to them anymore to think like this. You've got to think like this. This is our conditioning for the age of Aquarius.
It's also, remember, Uranus can be about freedom, and it's about the need to be free and the need to, you know, Uranus in Taurus is restricted because Taurus is fixed and stuck and kind of like Earth, and Uranus just wants to be free and be out there doing its Uranian thing. And the other interesting thing about this chart is that it's a Cancer ascendant. So I think this is where we have to find that internal parent to nurture ourselves, because we might not be getting it from others at the moment, because everybody is going through a pretty tough time with the current energies. And I think it will break to a certain extent when we get past this full moon in Aries on Sunday. I think there will be a feeling like the pus being released from an abscess as we get past that energy, because this Saturn Uranus is so hard. And it's very much, I think, at the moment about us. We're all on our own. We've all got to sort this out for our own selves. We can't always expect others to rescue us, be there for us, listen to us, support us. We've got to be big grown-ups now and really work with ourselves alone and rescue ourselves.
I'm just letting that sit. Can't really say anything to that. And listen, you're saying this as an astrologer, and I hear a little therapy in there too.
Yeah.
You know, you can't separate the two. I know you. I know you too well. So
also, I think as I'm also saying it as a human being, because there are many times, I too want to be rescued, for somebody to say something to me to make it all better, whatever that means. And the recognition that comes every now and then, which is nobody can actually do that for me. I can only do it for myself. And it is the way it is, but it's what helps us grow up. It's what helps us mature.
Well, and you also, we talk about this as well. And, you and I have this deal of like, hey, we're going to help each other and, and create platforms with each other and that sort of thing. And, remember a couple of weeks ago when you hit 1,000 subscribers, you did that. I mean, I cheered you on, and I might have said, hey, let's make sure that, we help out Penny and that sort of thing. I did what I was supposed, I did this, but I don't have anything vested in the energy of like, I don't see any of that. I shouldn't make any of that money. You're earning it. I'm happy to help you. This is yours. We did this for your channel to get over 1,000. By the way, now you got like 1,100. Like you just keep growing every week, and
1,162.
Will you quit fucking looking? Stop it. Let it grow. Let it grow. Let it grow. Oh God, I'm gonna try and sing. By the way, I'm gonna let some people in on this. Totally unsolicited, and Penny may give me the You might give me the Malloy here in a second, but the evil eye. I was trying to surprise you with the backing track and vocal to a Christmas song, which is when I blew out my throat because I haven't sung in a while. And then my nose started running. I literally think my cold popped because I was straining my vocal cords.
Oh.
Well, then I got through it. I'm like, okay, I'll go to press. My entire computer shut down because they were like, yep, we got you to a certain point. And I was like, you son of a, are you kidding me?
That was you told, eh?
So Penny and I have a crazy idea. I'm going to talk about it because I think it'll come to fruition if we talk about it.
Okay.
Well, we're going to do a Christmas song and we're going to figure out, and it'll be a duet between the two of us. And we've got a couple of ideas and we'll pick the best one. That's why I'm not mentioning songs because I don't want you guys to say that. And by the way, if you guys think that we should do a particular song, we're trying to find something traditional that's across the ocean that's, kind of fun. And we'll, but she and I need ventures together. We need creative endeavors. And, here I am coming out with a book and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll totally write a book with you. I've got 3 other topics I got to get to beforehand and do some soulmate stuff here. But the conversation, about creating music is wonderful. And I work with I'm going to be working with a singer-songwriter who's published already, and she's really got her act together, and she's a great person. She's going through her own transition with all of this, and she's elevating. And we've just said, hey, it's not our time, but let's put a bookmark in this and talk later. And I know that she can take my crazy chords and put them into progressions and that sort of thing. But I was having fun with that, and I had such joy doing it. That's why I'm saying to you, I can't let this go. I can't let this little cold thing come up. Oh, by the way, everybody, Florida next weekend for me. I'm going to be down there. The parts that I'm going to was not as affected. It's on the East Coast. But I have a couple of publications out there about ways to help our friends in Florida. I know we've got a lot of viewers down there. Guys, we're coming. I know that the other mediums involved with this show at the Spirit Fest, we're all doing individual stuff, and we're going to do a collective there for some of the hurricane relief efforts. It really got demolished. There are parts of Florida that just aren't there anymore. It got hammered by a category 5. I mean, but again, there it is, that Uranus square Saturn. That's how it plays out naturally. And of course, I'm booked to go there. I'm a healer. They're sending me where I'm supposed to go. I'm not fighting it anymore.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But
what songs do you think we should sing?
I've got a great idea, but I want to keep it secret.
Okay.
I want to tell you privately. I could text it to you. I'll text it to you.
Yeah, why don't we do the ultimate tease with that? So growing up, and actually in the book coming out next week, I ruined my sister's Christmas because I kept telling them what their presents were and what was in my. It's funny, you hit send. That's how quick it is. Fucking, I knew it. I knew it. It's that song sound. It smells like whiskey. It smells like whiskey. I'll pour you another drink. So, and 5 of you just went, I thought the same thing. But what song should Penny and I do as a duet? That would be fun. We'll have fun with it. Fun across the pond.
Yeah.
But the point of my story with that was that, John Denver, and the Muppet Christmas Carol was so important to me growing up. I mean, it came out in 77, 70, 78. I was a kid, 5, 6 years old, and listening to that CD over and over again now and grilling it into my kids is so they know it's Christmas when that album comes out. They just know it. And it's amazing because the way that they react to it is the same way I reacted to it. And when they're singing, the 12 Days of Christmas, 5 golden, right? It's just the whole house goes nuts. They just screaming at the top of their lungs. Well, my sisters and I, that was our running joke. We'd be in the middle of a conversation, 5 golden, right? It was just, it was just the way we would do it. And it brings back such awesome memories and so cool. And that's part of the reason why, you know, we love holiday music so much, because it's, I mean, it's a soundtrack of life, right? And that's why I think doing a recording for you and I, you know, and putting out one good one. If we get more, so be it. But to get one good one out there, and we'll pick we'll pick something to benefit and all that other good stuff. But I just love to be creative again. By the way, that's part of what's going on with this portal too. Creative energy,
Yes.
huge creative energy,
Well,
right?
look at that South Node in the 5th house in Scorpio.
Ta-da! All right,
Ta-da.
love. You've got a full schedule. What's your personal appearance tonight?
Oh, it's on Facebook. I do my live short heads up video for the full moon. So this is a bit like a rehearsal for it. And it's
Great. I'm the opener. Are you kidding me? I'm the opener.
You're the opener. But I do it via Gozo in the House, which is Andrea Britton's baby.
Yeah, and we'll put that in the link below too. You guys should follow Gozo in the House. We've got some things coming up here. And even if you're in the US, you should follow it, because we've got some plans for next year for some retreat stuff coming up here in the future and that sort of thing. It'll be worthwhile for you to do. Where Ibiza is really kind of the party central of the Mediterranean, Gozo and Malta is really
it's not called Ibiza, it's called Ibiza.
Fucking whatever. Make it up as you go along.
Ibiza.
Ecstasy Island. That's what it's called.
Well, yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but contrary to that, Malta and the Gozo area is more of a spiritual hotbed for this. And you know, we're kicking the tires and we're planning it out. And Andrea's a great promoter, so a lot of confidence in that. So go follow Gozo in the House as well. If you like Penny, she pops up every once in a while, and then, you know, they just give you really great culture there. And the you know, and the tourist community there is really fantastic. There was a woman who did an article that started to talk about Malta in her blogs, and she said, I ended up in Malta and these are beautiful pictures and this is a great location. And the president actually reached out to her and welcomed her when she arrived. You know, so I think we got to get the president of Malta on this, if you don't mind.
Why not?
I'll reach out to him. Tell Andrea she's got to pull some strings.
Yeah,
We're Gozo in the House, presidential edition. All right, Penny. Lovely as always. Tough energy, but I know we're going to make it through. There's purpose in toughness, right?
We just have to remember that Chiron, the wounded healer, is part of this full moon equation, and it's at the top of that kite. So whatever is happening this weekend or in the next few days, whatever leaves your life wasn't really meant to be there in the first place, and the healing can begin.
But I want it in my life, and I don't want it to go. I know it's not my choice. It's the way it rolls, right?
It is.
I get it. All right, dear. Listen, we're going to give each other the heart tap, and we need one right now, right? We're going to remind ourselves to love and care for one another, and to remind each other to simply keep going. So you get to second base on yourself every time we close out. What is up with that? Terrible. All right, guys, keep going. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Penny. You're the best.
Thanks, and you. Bye.